The whole Seymour Green connection started back in 2001 when the students in my natural building class were interested in having a project that actually had some community value and ended up being a hands-on opportunity.
I guess I first learned about Seymour Green when I was taking the natural building elective with Kim Thompson. There was a gardening community. They were interested in having their existing shed replaced with something else. There was like a small budget for it.
I went into it just wanting to try gardening for a little bit. I've never done any gardening and wanting to grow a little bit of food, some vegetables. But soon the gardening kind of fell to the wayside when we decided to build the shed. I think we didn't realize how big an endeavor it was going to be, so I got involved in building the straw bale shed, which I thought was a neat idea as well.
I think the assignment in general terms just called for any type of community project that you might think of. This was one which kind of spoke to me because it had a sort of tangible aspect to it. It was a problem that needed immediate attention. So in a way, the testing ground was perfect to see something being developed, ideas being shaped, and for a structure to go up.
Especially natural building in the city isn't something that we think of very much, so I thought it was great that we were able to do that in the city. I also like the idea of natural building sort of as a community building thing, and it's something that everybody just kind of pitches in to do together, and it's very labor intensive, but it's also pretty fun and sort of, I don't know, natural, touchy-feely kind of feeling to build a shed like that.
The project evolved in 2005 to Mark Chin and Robert's design of using the theater seats and a straw bale wall. The straw bale wall in the Seymour Green project is a wonderful demonstration of straw bale construction and how it can be applied to the maritime context. The bales are laid out in running bonds, so they're stacked up like bricks, and they sit on a foundation. It can be any kind of a foundation. In this case, we've used a gabion wall, which is just stone collected and piled up in a metal cage. And the stone and the urbanite that was refuse from the deconstruction of the infirmary in behind Dalhousie, the architecture school there, was great. A great example of reuse of material.
Straw bale is sort of available material that could be harnessed from any sort of farms that are locally or within a certain amount of driving distance.
Well, one of the key philosophies that we had behind this whole project was to make sure that we reused as many materials as possible. So materials that were ordinarily going to go to a landfill or were being thrown out, or we wanted to salvage things and get other materials that were donated from the community that were in people's houses that they just wanted to get rid of or there was no use for. So we were really trying to come up with creative ways of reusing a lot of these materials or these throwaway materials and making them functional and applicable in the garden.
Well, the very first thing that we did was looked at the building from different sides and different angles and tried to find out how we could have the roof running mostly structurally off of the straw bale wall, because that's a really strong wall in the building. The rest were just sort of sparse 2x4 studded walls. And once we figured out how to do that, we just got up there and ripped off the tin roof in as good a shape as we could. Some of the bolts were frozen on or rusted on, so those were cut and smashed out, whatever we could do to save as much of the tin as we could, and piled that aside because we knew we'd need it in a couple of weeks. Yeah, that was quick. Taking the roof off was really quick and easy. It made the project seem like it was going to be really quick and easy. And the next of which was building up a beam running off of the short, I guess it would be the short north wall, and onto the straw bale wall, so that all the weight was going to come onto that straw bale wall and that little short wall, which is pretty strong because it was so small. It seems very strong. And we did that just with existing wood from around the site. There's a lot of old wood from the projects years before, and we had a lot of wood that we had scrounged up and gotten from Maritime Demo and stuff, reused wood. And so we just piled that up to make that beam a solid space, instead of trying to have two posts and a big thick beam up there. So we just made that a solid space running right down onto the straw bale wall. We're witnessing the determination of the slope of the roof, which is 16 feet long. So I'm thinking if we get it 2 feet high, that will give us half a foot over 4, which will make water run downhill. Seems pretty key. Very key. And we put those joists up. I believe Jordan was there that day, and Kyla as well. And we put the joists up, running all down in sort of a fan pattern, which we thought would kind of open up the roof to the space really nice, and also serve structurally as very strong. We had calculated about probably a maximum of 3 tons if you included all the snow and soil that was possible to get on that roof. It was a small space, but that weight adds up really quick, so we wanted to make it way stronger than necessary. Yeah, Kyla had been ripping pallet wood diligently for 6 hours the day before, and we use that as where you would use your sheathing, so that's usually where your plywood layer goes down. And then we started really dense at the top, and then realized that we weren't going to have enough pallet wood, which is really difficult to rip up. It's a hard wood, so it's not forgiving with nails, and it's really hard to kind of harvest. So we ended up spacing it out about two pallet spaces for every pallet board up there, and continued to sheathe the roof, and it worked really well because it followed the slope of the roof easily, because it was all 2 foot lengths. So it wasn't like a plywood situation where you'd have this board resisting that slope. It was really easy to work with. We put on our sheets of aluminum that we'd ripped off from the original roof,